All right, it's 2 o'clock on the dot, and welcome to this edition of Ask the Regulator online session, where we will allow you as public and private bodies to ask us questions related to PAIA and PAIA compliance. My name is Nomzamo Zondi, and I'm the Senior Manager Communication and Media at the Information Regulator. And we thank you so much for joining us today on this session, Ask the Regulator. So today's edition is in partnership with CIPC because we are embarking on a partnership to improve our systems and compliance by public and private bodies with PAIA and PAIA. But today we are particularly going to zoom into PAIA compliance as we have a deadline upon us to submit our PAIA annual reports. But we have a panel of experts who's going to explain more why we are meeting here today and explain the importance of complying with PAIA, but also not leaving out PAIA, as that is our mandate as the information regulator. Part of our mandate is the information regulator. So please note that our session today will run for about an hour, but no longer than an hour and a half. And we will be allowing all participants today to actually ask the regulator a question. Whether you raise your hand, we will give you an opportunity, or you actually ask your questions on the chat room. We do have colleagues that will be responding actively to any of your questions that you may have about the PAIA annual reporting, as well as the compliance with the Protection of Personal Information Act. So we will start off our session by me introducing the various panel members that we have today on our program. We do have Ms. Alison Tilley, who is a member of the Information Regulator, who will just give us a brief background on the purpose of why we're meeting here today. We also have Advocate Rory Vola from the CIPC, who's the Commissioner, will give us an opening statement. Then we have the people who are going to be responding to all your difficult questions. We have Advocate Lamula, Deborah Lamula, who's the Senior Manager for Compliance and Monitoring at PAIA. And we also have Ms. Sewela Seshoni, who is going to be covering the issues of PAIA annual reporting, and she's the manager responsible for compliance and monitoring at PAIA. We also have Ms. Rihalda Williams, who's the Senior Manager, Innovation and Collaboration. And we have our Chief Information Officer, Mr. Thando Luyaba, who's going to demonstrate and take us through the e-services portal, as well as how we navigate the BIS portal to access the regulators' services. And obviously, because it is about asking the regulator, we are going to have multiple opportunities for you to ask us the questions, and we will then respond thereafter. Without wasting a lot of time, I would like to now welcome Ms. Alison Tilley, who is just going to give us a background or purpose of our session today, and thereafter I'll give you more hints and guidelines in terms of how the session is going to unfold. Ms. Alison Tilley.
So thank you very much, Ms. Sondi, and I'm delighted to welcome everybody to this Ask the Regulator section, except it's of course not Ask One Regulator, but two. So you're getting bang for your buck this afternoon. The main thing that we're going to be first focusing on is the Promotion of Access to Information Act reporting season. And what we really like to be doing is encouraging people to send us their reports. You may wonder why we need these reports. It's really one of the ways we're able to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening around PAIA, and it's a way of telling us whether people are complying or not. So I think it's not just sending a report into cyberspace. It's really allowing us to diagnose where there are issues and where we need to do more work. We're very pleased to do these kinds of session because we can get feedback that way as well. So I think it's useful in both those regards. We'd be very happy to, as Ms. Sondi said, to take questions, and if there are questions we can't answer, we will always be able to take those away and deal with them at a later point. but please feel welcome, feel comfortable, and feel free to ask and engage with us. Thank you. Back to Ms. Sondi.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tilly. And I think it's important to also indicate that Ms. Tilly is also the chairperson for education and communication at the Information Regulator. So this is actually what she oversights to ensure that we do interact with you actively and we do share information with public and private bodies so you're able to comply with PAIA and PAIA. I think now I'm going to allow Advocate Rory Vola, who is the Commissioner at CIPC, to also give us some opening remarks. As I indicated that today it is a partnership and it's not just Ask One Regulator, but it asks the regulators, which includes the IPC. Over to you, Advocate Rory.
Thank you very much for those opening words, and greetings to all. Welcome to the webinar, which is a great initiative between Information Regulator and CIPC. I think that the public and our clients definitely value and find a lot of benefit when regulators get together and try to educate them on the compliance work that they are required to do, as well as what we are responsible for. Because, it's one thing to make laws, and the regulatory work is always about making sure that there's compliance to those laws. But we also need to make it easier for those who we service to comply with whatever has been legislated. So the educating part of this webinar is vitally important. I encourage you all to ask as many questions as you would like. As Ms. Tilly said, we might not know all the answers, but we certainly will try. And we will make sure that we are able to brief you as best as we can. The CIPC prides itself on being an innovative organization. We continuously seeking collaborative measures in order for us to make your life easier. And the fact that we are now collaborating with a fellow regulator who does extremely important work in the privacy space, we are certainly proud to be a partner. We in 2019 launched what is called the BIS portal, which was a one-stop shop of many aspects of how a company is registered, how a company is regulated, and various partners that have been brought on board, from the PE Commission to the Compensation Fund and the UIF. And now we are very, very proud to include also the Information Regulator on our BIS portal. What has been included on the BIS portal as far as the Information Regulator component is concerned is that companies can now register their information officer details. They can file the annual Promotion of Access to Information Act reports, which is the PAIA reports, and this will all make it easier for one to comply because there'll be direct access onto the platform. As I've stated, red tape reduction is a big part of what we do, and therefore we want you to raise as many issues and concerns that you have. So it makes us better regulators. It makes us easier and responsive to the needs that you have, and also for us to make sure that we listen and take heed to what you are experiencing. So I look forward to the strengthening our partnership with the Information Regulator and others. The BIS portal was always structured on a platform that brings in as many partners as possible in order to have a one-stop shop portal that one can interact with government at. And therefore, we are proud of the fact that we are managed to expand on that. So I wish you all a very successful webinar. As I said, be interactive, ask, question, and make sure that you get a lot of value out of the session that is before you. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much, Advocate Vola. And that is a very well-received opening remark. Like you've indicated, yes, we are embarking on a partnership so we can improve systems and assist compliance by public and private bodies to comply with PAIA and PAIA. Thank you so much for those opening remarks. I know, as unfair as this may sound, but I also have a few questions of my own to the participants today. I'm going to be running a few polls because I really want to get a sense of where we are in terms of complying with PAIA annual reporting. But I also want to check if you have registered as well as IOs. But before we do that, I want to just request kindly to the participants that if you have any question, may I please kindly request that you use the Q&A section so we are able to really fully respond to your questions and follow and track. It'll make it much easier opposed to you putting your questions in the chat room. So please use the Q&A tab to type out your questions. But we still will be giving you an opportunity to raise your hand, and we will allow you to then unmute yourself, introduce yourself and your company, and thereafter pose your question when the opportunity is presented in the program. Like I said, I do have a question. I would like to just run our first poll. If Daisy, you could assist me with putting up the first poll that we have for our participants today. We just want to get a sense, because we indicated that we are addressing today both public and private bodies, so we are able to just see who is in the room and participating with us today. Daisy, are we able to put up the first poll for today?
Thank you, Zamo. I will put on the poll, but I've actually grouped all the 3 questions, so they will be able to actually answer all of the questions at a go without actually needing to waste water. Thank you.
No problem. Let's run the poll. Let's see who is in the room today joining us on the session. I'm also going to share my screen, because I would like those who are live streaming on our YouTube channel and as well as our Facebook page, the CIP Facebook page, to also see the responses to the polls that are being run today. So let's see, what brings you to today's session and who are you representing? Can we get some responses or participation on this poll? I will just give it about a minute or two for people to respond. Okay. Then the next question: is your organization's information officer registered with the Information Regulator? Can we see if you have registered? Because Advocate Lamula is going to tell us that, can you even submit your PAIA annual report if you're not registered? And why should you register as an IO? And it's non-compliance with PAIA if you are not registered, by the way. And then our last question is, has your organization submitted its PAIA annual report for 2024-2025? This is the period from the 1st of April last year to end of March this year. Have you submitted your PAIA annual reports to the regulator? All right. Let's see what results are we getting, Daisy. Okay, so what brings you to the session today and represent? Okay, we have 61% of private bodies who are represented today in our session, and we have 28% of public bodies, which are government departments, municipalities, entities, and regulators that form part of public bodies. I'm seeing that we have 11% of people who are attending in their personal capacity, or they may not be sure whether they fall under a public or private body. And then if we look at is your organization information officer registered with the regulator? We have a good response of 76%, which is good. We have to help the 8% who said no, they are not registered. And I guess if you said not applicable and you don't process personal information, but nonetheless, you still have to submit your PAIA annual report, even if you do not process personal information. And let's try and assist those that are not sure if they have registered their IO. But I think CIO will be taking us to the platform to show us how do we do that. Has the organization submitted its PAIA annual report? I am going to be very concerned with the 40% that said no, but actually I'm glad that they are here on this platform today, because we want that at the end of the session, you are able to then submit your PAIA annual report. But I see 32% has submitted their PAIA annual report. Thank you so much. We will assist those who are not sure, which is 21%, and some say it's not applicable to them. Ms. Sewela, I think we're going to have to unpack how is it not applicable for people to submit their PAIA annual reports. All right, thank you so much for participating. on that poll. And we're now going to move on to our next item, which is giving you an opportunity to actually ask us questions. So we are now giving you an opportunity where we're going to take a few questions from some of the public and private bodies. And I see Ipileng is already keenly waiting to ask her question. So I'm going to note Ipileng, and then Ipileng will be followed by Njabulo. And going once, going twice, it is your platform to ask us today. So I want to start off the session by allowing you to ask us the question. If you have actually interacted with the system, if you had tried to submit your PAIA annual report and you have not succeeded, or even if you're not sure whether you should. So this is your opportunity to then ask us the questions. I don't see any other hands for now, so we will just then take Ipileng, then Ipileng will be followed by Njabulo. Ipileng?
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Ipileng Mutuba. I just wanted to flag that the sound is very choppy, so it's been cutting out during this introductory presentation.
All right, thank you so
I'm
much.
not sure if, yes, I don't know if it's a connection on my side or.
All right, can we get a confirmation from you, CIO? Can you hear me?
Your sound is not good, Ms. Sondi.
Okay, I'm going to try to connect to a different one, but so long, Ipileng, did you have a question or you just wanted to notify us of the sound?
I'll ask questions later, thank you. But yes, I wanted to notify you of the sound.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Njabulo? Njabulo, you have the floor, then we will follow with Karis.
Thank you so much. Greetings. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jabulo Mabaso from Jabulo Spiritual Ltd. I would like to please ask the regulators, how do they best assist persons with disabilities in a form of ensuring that we do comply on the basis that I am a dyslexic person. So having a learning disability at the same time running a business, we understand that there are so many papers which are required for us, but in our constituency, we've got many young persons with disabilities who are struggling to read and write. But initially, in terms of the systems that you are trying to put in place, which will simply accommodate us as persons with disabilities, perhaps you'll find this, as I'm dyslexic currently, my company had nearly got to be deregistered. There were no notifications that I was getting on the point just to notify me that I should be on point with the regulators according to the Companies Act. So our concern is that, one, please could you come up with systems which will ensure that persons with disabilities are fully inclusive when it comes to compliance with the regulators. You'll find that the documents that are issued, it becomes an issue for us to be compliant. So as I'm stating that, we would like the regulator to come up with systems which will simply make it easier for us in order to comply. Having a learning disability or being blind, or whether being partially blind or neither, being a person who's totally blind for that matter, or any form of disability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Njabulo, for raising such a important question. And at some point, I will allow Ms. Alison Tilly and Advocate Rory Vola to just also weigh in on that. But I think even Ms. Rehelda and the CIO from the Information Regulator will also indicate how are we or our systems being user-friendly to with persons with disability or living with disabilities. So maybe we can also respond at that time. But thank you so much for that pertinent question. I will now ask Karus, I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly, to please ask the regulators. Karus, are you online? Prince Lou? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. My mic didn't want to unmute. Very big thank you for today's session. It's very valuable. Thank you so much. I have a client. I'm from a law firm, NBP Attorneys. I have a client who was previously registered by a service provider. The information officer was registered by a service provider, and now my client wants to submit their annual report, but they do not have the login details to access their own version of the portal. So to sign in, I sent an email to the regulator last week, and I've also logged a ticket via the ticketing system, but I haven't received any response yet. Is it please possible to just assist? How does one go about when something like that happens, when you don't have access to your own sign-in? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Karus. That is very interesting to share with us. But thank you so much for also indicating that you did submit your inquiry as well. We do have our colleagues from Help Desk online as well. They will also try to track that inquiry as well, but we will be responding to assist you in regards to how to then access your credentials that you had registered on before but cannot access them now. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to ask Ms. Alison Tilly if you want to just weigh in or respond in terms of what Jabulo had raised and Advocate Rory Vola before I move on to Advocate Lamula, just to weigh in on the issues of information officer registration.
Sure. So the regulator is conscious of questions of accessibility and being able to fill in our forms. And in fact, in the Access to Information Act, there's a specific requirement that if you are filling in a PAIA form, that the record holder should assist you in relation to that. We at the regulator as well are able to assist people with filling in forms if they're finding it difficult or challenging. And the key is to give us a call, and we will see if we can assist you. But certainly our view would be that you know, if you have a disability of any kind, that we should be assisting you in order to make sure that you are able to comply. I think the question of the whether or not you can have two profiles effectively, or one profile that applies across different entities, you should be able to do that. And whether you are able to do that in our online system is perhaps a question I can refer to our CIO. We may not know the answer, but I think if CIO could give us some idea, and if not, we can take that back. Thanks, Ms. Sandy.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tilly. I will allow Ms. Williams, when she comes in with her opening remarks, to also just indicate how CIPC is also ensuring accessibility to their systems as well. I see, Simtandile, you have an afterthought after my session of Ask the Regulators, but because I did indicate it is about you, I'm going to allow you the opportunity before I go to the panel members. Simtandile, you can ask the regulators.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay, no, apologies. That was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to raise my hand there.
All right, no problem. We will come back to you later if you have a question for us. So I'm going to introduce now our Senior Manager Compliance and Monitoring, Advocate Lamula, where she will just outline for us the importance of an information officer their role as a person who's accountable, and how then is it important, or why should they register with the Information Regulator? Advocate Lamola, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Zondi. Good afternoon to the audience as well. We are talking about the person who's supposed to be the driver of the train here. And we would be looking at the train not being able to move if we don't have an information officer registered. That is how significant an information officer is, and that's why they need to register so that they may be known not only on the by the information regulator, but importantly by the members of the public. Now, by law, an entity, public or private, must register an information officer. They may only register once, and where possible, when necessary, it can only be one information officer. However, they may register more than one deputy information officer. Now, why is it important to register, to be registered as an information officer? If we look at PAIA in section 55, it offers, or it tenders powers to the information officer for ensuring that there should be compliance with PAIA. Now, we cannot have an entity that says that it complies with PAIA and also with PAIA if they do not have an information officer. Now, if you look also in the regulations that relate to the to PAIA, in Regulation 4, the duties and responsibilities of that information officer are outlined, and most significantly, the regulation gives direction to this information officer as to what steps and measures need to be taken so that compliance in that body can be ensured. Now, basically, we need to look at who this person can be, and that this person should actually be a person that is high in position in an organization, be it private or public. Reason being that this is a person alone or with others who will then determine the purpose of processing of information. Now, that is important because now we are talking about PAIA submission, and you asked earlier, Ms. Zondi, whether a person who is not registered as an information officer can actually submit their reports. The answer is simply not even the system will allow that, just to show that it is significant for the entity, being it public or private, to register an information officer. Now, we can just give an example of persons who should be information officers in, for example, if we look at public, we're talking about, for example, a director general or a person who's acting as a director general. We're talking about the head of department or the person who's acting as such. Well, for municipalities, for example, it would be the municipal manager. But we should also always remember that while it might be just one information officer, that information officer is able to appoint more than one deputy information officer. Now, the DI also, to say, has the duties that are similar to that of the information officer. So where the practicalities in the entity, perhaps because of size of the entity, require that there should be more than DIO, we should rest assured that you can appoint more than one, and the system allows for that to happen, as CIO will indicate later. Now, we have situations, Ms. Zondi, just in closing, where we find that there are international corporates or businesses which want to process information in South Africa. The principle is simple. That entity must appoint someone in the country to act as the information officer. And the credentials of that person that is appointed by the person who's a business that is residing outside the country must be at the same level as prescribed in PAIA with regards to seniority. So basically, in all respects, you require an entity to have an information officer registered, and that information officer can then decide on appointing the deputy information officers. I'll await further questions in this regard. Thank you very much, Ms. Sonde.
Thank you so much, Advocate Lamula, for giving us that very crisp explanation and importance of IOs and their registration. So it's very clear that if you have not registered your information officer or DIO, Deputy Information Officer with the Information Regulator, then you are non-compliant with PAIA. But we will be allowing you to ask questions if you have any at a later stage. But I'd like to now just welcome Ms. Sewela Seshoni to just give us the importance of reporting to submit your PAIA annual reports. What are they? Who is supposed to submit these PAIA annual reports? Over to you, Ms. Sewela.
Thank you, Ms. Zondi. Good afternoon to everyone. With regards to PAIA annual reports, this is one of the mechanisms which are in place to monitor how requests for access to informations or records are actually handled by both the public bodies and private bodies. And the object and application of PAIA is in place to give effect to the constitutional right of access to any information held by both public bodies and private bodies. And the application of PAIA record applies, or PAIA rather, applies to a record of a public body or a private body. And in terms of Section 52, PAIA provides that a political party must create and keep records of any donation made and also make the records available for public inspection at the main place of business or the principal place of business. I will go into the definition of a public body as well as the private body. A public body refers to any department or state or administration in the national or provincial sphere of government or any municipality. And or any other functionary exercising a power or a public function. A private body means a natural person, a company, a partnership that carries on business, any former or existing juristic person, or a political party. And this also include a private body, irrespective of the size of the body and whether such a private body does process personal information or not. With regards to PAIA annual reporting, we have Section 32 of PAIA, which places an obligation on all public bodies to prepare a report on request for access to information which were received by the public body. The reports must be submitted to the regulator within a stipulated time frame. You would notice that the portal opened on the 1st of April and closes on the 30th of June. And with regards to Section 83(4), it empowers the regulator to call for submission of reports by private bodies on requests of information received or handled in a particular financial year. Normally, the regulator would issue a notice requesting all information officers and heads of private bodies to submit these reports. This was done and the notice was made public or was published. The regulator in turn has a duty or a mandate to report to the National Assembly on submissions which are received from public and private bodies. And I will now go into the areas of reporting. In relation to a public body, they have to submit statistics on the number of requests for access received, the number of requests for access granted in full, the number of requests of access granted in terms of Section 46. This is the mandatory issuing of a record in terms of public interest, mandatory public interest rather. And they also have to submit the number of requests of access refused in full and refused partially, the number of cases which the periods stipulated in section 25 were extended. So this is where bodies have sought an extension in handling a particular request. And the number of internal appeal lodged with the relevant authority, and the number of cases in which, as a result, an internal appeal access was given to a record or part thereof. They also have to report on the number of internal appeals which were lodged on the ground that a request for access was regarded as having been refused in terms of section 27. The number of applications made to every court and the outcome thereof, and the number of decisions of every court appealed against and the outcome thereof. The number of applications to every court which were lodged on the ground that an internal appeal was regarded as having been dismissed in terms of section 77. So this is where an internal appeal was lodged and was not responded to. The number of complaints lodged with the public protector in terms of a right or a duty imposed by this act and the nature and outcome thereof of that complaints lodged. So this is only applicable to the public protector and such other matters as may be prescribed. And in respect of private bodies, they have to report on the number of requests of access received, requests granted in full, the number of access to requests granted in terms of section 70, the number of requests for access refused in full, and also the number of access, the number of requests for access which were partially granted, as well as the number of cases in which periods stipulated in section 56 were extended. This is the extension sought by the private body. The number of complaints lodged against the body with the Information Regulator, the number of decisions of the Information Regulator reviewed against, the number of applications made to every court, and also the number of decisions of every court appealed and the outcome thereof. So in relation to PAIA annual reports, this applies to where a member of the public would have filled in the Form 2 and lodged it with a certain body. We normally receive inquiries indicating that the bodies have released the records. However, the PAIA route was not used. If a public body or a private body has issued records not using the PAIA route, these statistics should not be reported on as PAIA annual reports. So PAIA states that any other law that gives a person an avenue for accessing information that is less onerous than PAIA can be used. So in cases that any other platform was used, the reporting should be accurate. And in return, the regulator has to report on these statistics to the National Assembly. Hence, we stress the issue of ensuring that the PAIA statistics are accurate. And again, just in closing, access to information is crucial for strengthening our democracy, in that citizens can participate in informed discussions and exercise their rights more effectively. So we encourage and advise bodies to handle access to or request for access to records, ensure that they grant this access to records or grant the requesters these records. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sewela, so much for that very comprehensive presentation. And I think it's very important to highlight the fact that both public and private bodies are required or expected to submit their PAIA annual reports with the regulator. And thank you for sharing the outline in terms of what private is expected from public bodies and private bodies, and giving that distinction as well, but also emphasizing that the access to information or the request would have come from the members of the public. And I think it's also important to indicate whether a public or private body did receive or did not receive a PAIA request, you still need to report that to the information regulator, even if you did not receive any request to access any records from your organization or from your institution. I do note that Christian and Carl do have questions, but if you could just keep your hand up, Christian and Carl, I will give you an opportunity to ask your questions. But I just want to quickly just take Ms. Rihelda Williams just to give us a short overview about our partnership with the CIPC and expanding our services to their platform, but also to, if you could just weigh in or respond to some of the comments that were made by Njabulo about access to our platforms and systems, particularly for disabled persons. Can you please take the floor, Ms. Williams?
Thanks, Samuel. Nice seeing you finally. Good afternoon, everybody. I think our commissioner actually at this very strategic level set the scene for our partnership and informing the audience of how we work together, why we work together, and to try and come down on an operational level from what he had sketched as the strategic intent of this. Firstly, we want businesses to comply, and we wanted to make it easy. Secondly, we want to make it easier to comply. So it is good that both the CIPC as well as the Information Regulator see it fit that government bodies work together to make it easier for end users to comply. So it's twofold. It's to be an effective regulator as well as to improve service delivery. And we're very happy that the Information Regulator reached out to us. I think it was earlier this year, and that we've been able to ensure that some of these services are on our platforms. We hope to expand on these services. CIPC in the past had worked together with many organizations to offer integrated services, because as public servants and and public entities in general, it is imperative for us to just grant access. So to come to the question of people living with disabilities and making things easier, we would like to hear from you what you'd like to see and how we can assist, particularly those living with dyslexia. What we do offer as the CIPC is walk-in centers. We have physical centers in each of the major cities across the country. So you're welcome to just check on our website where you can find a CIPC center to go and visit, and our staff will be and should be able to assist you. Because that is, I know it might not be accessible for everyone, but in each of the provinces at least we have a presence. And then I like what you had said about the dyslexia thing. So I'd like to pick your brain a bit on it, because we are embarking on an exercise where we want to have visual aids for users, because apart from the issue of people living with disabilities, we have to acknowledge that Gen Zs typically wouldn't read notices or instructions and so on. So there are issues of generational accessibility as well. So we would like to, CIPC would like to embark on a series of visual aids in the form of videos and so to guide our users. So I hope that somehow answers what you had asked, and that it can somehow assist you in being compliant with our processes. But we'd like to hear also from the audience on how we can further assist. We saw some questions here on the chat around login details. Our colleagues will provide the email addresses to officials who will assist you when you had forgotten your login details to your CIPC account and so on, to reset your password. And we hope that can help. And then we just ask our colleagues from IR to respond to some of the other questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. William. Thank you, Rielda, for just outlining that partnership and also how we are ensuring and willing to also improve our systems so to ensure inclusive accessibility to our services. We really appreciate that. And thank you again, Jabulo, for raising that very critical question with us as the regulators. I'm going to move on to the next speaker, which is our Chief Information Officer. But if you would indulge me, CIO, perhaps the questions that Carl and Christian wants to ask is something that's related to something that you can respond to. So I'm just going to give Christian an opportunity to ask their question and then followed by Carl. If you can introduce yourself and indicate which organization or company you come from. Christian?
Good day, everyone. My name is Chimani Christian Fika, and I'm a fractional COO of OPD Solutions. Okay. So my question is, in our attempt to be compliant with PAIA as a small business in Soweto, where can we find a comprehensive guide or booklet for small business information officers to set up internal response systems that meet the regulator standards for PAIA compliance, including up-to-date forms and audit readiness? This is in response to the lady that has spoken before about doing things in accordance with PAIA, like responding in accordance with PAIA when you are responding to requests. Did you get my question?
Yes, thank you so much, Christian. Thank you so much. Let's go for Carl. Carl, are you unmuted? Please unmute yourself. Okay, I see that Carl is struggling with unmuting himself. Maybe I will just allow the CIO to then come in and do a demonstration of the systems, and thereafter we will come back to Carl. And I see Maririmba and Ipileng. I note you, and we will take your questions thereafter. But I think we'll be able to respond to Christian as well, CIO, in terms of what are the self-help sessions we have on our e-services. But we also do encourage you, Christian, to do follow our social media pages, as well as access some information about how you can comply with PAIA and POPIA as a small business, as you indicated. But you can also engage with us as the education and communication unit about having stakeholder sessions and training sessions, as well as where you can access other information that can help you about complying as a business. CIO, over to you. And I did note the other participants who have questions who will come after your demonstration. CIO, over to you.
Thank you, Nomzamo. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tando. Today, we are focusing on two very important services that we offer through our e-services portal, that being the registration of information officers, as well as the submission of PAIA annual reports. Now, it has been mentioned here today that we've recently partnered with the CIPC to make things a bit easy for business to comply. What this means is that these same two services that I just mentioned are now also available through the Biz Portal platform. I'll speak more on the Biz Portal integration in a moment, but I want to start with our e-services portal and just give everyone a quick overview of what we offer on this portal and what you can do on there. My colleagues have spoken about the what and the why as well, and on my side, I'll focus on the how. We launched our e-services portal, I think about a year ago, and since then we've automated quite a number of services on there. You can access it through the main regulator website, or you can go directly by going to eservices.inforegulator.org.za. So let me quickly just touch on a few key services that are already on the portal, and I'll share my screen shortly. And while I do that, I'll switch my video off, and I'll switch it back on later on. Ms. Zondi, please let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see your screen, CIO. Thank you.
Okay, just give me a second. I just need to log in before I share. Stay with me for a second.
I have also noted you, Elia. We will take your questions shortly after the presentation from Tando. Thank you so much.
Okay, it should be back on any second now.
Yes, we are live, CIO. Thank you.
Okay, right, great. So I'll just go straight to our services page. And first up, we have something that we call iSupport. It's basically our online query management system. If you've got any query with the regulator, we encourage you to use this iSupport option to submit your query. It's accessible from right there at the bottom of the screen, but you can also access it from the top menu up there. So any queries, we encourage that you use this system instead of calling in or sending emails. This will ensure that there's accountability. We'll assign it to someone and they'll get back to you. Please do note that, though, at the moment, we're not handling any login queries on the iSupport. Those can still be emailed to us at this point. Login related queries will be added to the platform in the near future. So if you're not able to log in, you can still send us an email. But if you are able to log in, then please log in and submit an iSupport query. The system requires that you are logged in before you can submit a query. We also have, so just follow my mouse. We also have a section for reporting security compromises. As you probably know already, it is mandatory for any organization that suffers a data breach or a compromise to report that to the regulator as soon as possible. This can now be done online through our e-services portal. We then have, so from next month, I'm sure you can see that PAIA and PAIA complaints option there. It's not accessible at this point, but from next month, members of the public will be able to submit PAIA complaints online. PAIA will come later in the year. If you're getting those pesky unsolicited marketing calls or feel your personal information was misused somehow by any organization, then you'll be able to lodge a complaint from the e-services portal very soon. We then have our self-assessment. So if you check there, we've got PAIA self-assessment, we've got PAIA self-assessment as well. These are for organizations that want to check how well they're doing when it comes to complying with both PAIA and PAIA. It's a great way to identify gaps and see where you still need to improve. It is not an audit, I need to stress that. It's not an audit or an official assessment, but it's just a helpful guide for organizations to be able to see where they need to improve before the regulator gets to them. Okay, well, on self-assessments, I just need to find it. We've got what we call the personal previous score, PPS for short. This is aimed at individuals now, not organizations, and it's open to anyone. It's an interactive assessment that helps you understand how you handle personal information in your day-to-day life. It looks at things like, do you use strong passwords in your accounts? Any account, could be a work or personal account. How do you behave on social media? Do you ask for consent before sharing someone's details or even posting their picture online? So if you take this, you'll get a score at the end, and you can come back later and maybe a few months down the line, redo the assessment, and it'll tell you if you are compliant. Sorry, it'll give you a score, and you'll see how you're improving over time. Now let's go to the main topics for the day, which is the registration of information officers and PAIA annual reporting, and of course, starting with our e-services portal for now. Those options are available from the services page. So the first one, accessible from under the information officers tab. So if you click on that, to register, you get a few options there. You can start a new registration. You can check your registration. So the organizations that you are either an information officer, a deputy information officer, or even an admin officer for, they will appear under my organizations. You can choose to deregister an organization. Now, when you do register, we check first if your organization is registered with the CIPC. We check that it has been deregistered with the CIPC before we allow you to deregister on our side. You can download your certificates at any time. We also have step-by-step guides, which answers, I think, to the last question that came from Christian. So for the services that we offer, we have step-by-step guides to guide you on how to do some of these services. We are working on having videos in the future that will help in that instance as well. But for now, it's just PDF guides. So I'll quickly just show you how to start the process of registering your information officers. I have limited time, so I won't go through the entire process. So if you start a new registration, you need to know whether you belong to a private or a public organization. There was a poll question earlier which asked, and there were a few people that were not sure whether they are from public or private entities. So you need to know that. If you are from a public entity, you select that public option. And we've preloaded all public entities that are there in the country. So if you want to register a national government department, you'll get a list of all the national government departments that are here in the country. Public entities, for an example, as per the Treasury list, is it a Schedule 1, 2, 3A? You choose, is it a university, TVET college? You choose the relevant option there, and you should get a list of options. For an example, if you choose universities, you'll get a list of all universities in the country, and you select the particular university that you want to continue your registration under. And if it's already registered, it'll tell you that it's been registered and you can't do duplicate registration. In this case, the one that I chose, UKZN, this is our test environment. UKZN has not been registered in our test environment, and I can proceed with the registration. And we ask for some details. So we'll ask for email address of the organization, website address is not mandatory, telephone number is mandatory, and we ask for some contact details, some addresses as well. As you can see at the top, there are some steps that you need to follow. It's short steps. So we start by providing some information officer details. We'll ask who the information officer is. So in most cases, an information officer is the head of the organization. So that would be someone like your CEO in a private entity or your MD. In public entities, it will be your commissioner, your director general. So those are people that can be information officers. The IO can then delegate or designate deputy information officers, and they can also be added. We ask for the same information, and once you're done capturing all of that, you can add admin officers as well, who can do submissions on behalf of the organization without having to get approval. If you add them up front, they will be able to submit on behalf of the organization. So let's move on to the next option, which is PAIA Annual Reporting. Now, with this one, it can only be done, my colleague Sishrini has mentioned earlier that it can only be done during a specific time of the year, and it's usually between April and June. We give you about 3 months to submit. We do not allow for extensions. I think last year we did allow, but there won't be any extensions going forward. And that's for a simple reason. In July, we need to compile our consolidated report, and that goes to Parliament. And unfortunately, we also have deadlines for that submission to Parliament. And if we don't close it by the end of June, then we won't have enough time to compile that report. So we open it for 3 months. You need to ensure that you comply within that 3 months. And a lot of people wait until the last minute to do these submissions. And we want to encourage everyone to just make sure that as soon as it opens, you do your submission. At that point, when it opens, the previous financial year, which you are reporting on, has already closed. So you should have all of this information. So going forward, please try and comply as soon as possible to avoid technical delays, technical issues as well that may arise. So to submit, you start a new submission. All organizations where you are an officer, so I mentioned information officer, deputy information officer, or admin officer, all of those, they'll be listed here. And all you do is select. It also shows you which ones have complied and which ones haven't. So if you see a red X there, it means that organization has not complied. So if you go through the entire list, some have complied and some have not. So to submit, you basically click on that select option, and you will get a list of questions based on the type of entity that you are submitting for. Now, for public entities, you will get a list of 12 questions. Mrs. Srini did touch on them. If you're a private entity, I think the total number of questions is 9. So you just need to answer these questions, and all responses are numbers. So we ask how many requests for access did you receive. If you did not receive any, you still need to submit and type in 0 there. And if you type in 0 on the first one, the rest of the questions will, or the responses to the questions will automatically be 0. You can't have total number of requests received being 0 and then the next question is 1. Even the system will throw that out. It'll tell you that it's not possible. So if you have 0, that means everything else will be 0. Then you just answer all of those questions and submit. And it's as simple as that. It should take you about a few minutes to complete, and you will get a confirmation email with your reference number for the submission. So we do have a few other services that we offer. I've touched on all the other services that are quite important, but you can upload your PAIA manual as well. Each organization is required to have a PAIA manual, and it must be accessible from your place of business. You must have it on your website, but we've now given you a third option where you can put it on this platform, and it will be accessible to anyone who searches for your organization. So one other option that I forgot to mention is the search. So you can search for any registered public entity. So if you go to that option, let's just wait for it to load. But basically, you can type in any organization. If it's registered, you'll be able to see details about that organization. For an example, let me type in Information Regulator. You don't have to type in the full name. It should pick it up. And in this case, there it is, and it's registered. So if I click on View, I get to see details, full details about the Information Regulator. So the organization details, the address, who the information officer is. Again, this is a test environment. I'm not the information officer. So it'll list who the information officer is, who the deputies are, if there are deputies. PAIA Annual Reporting will show the history if the organization is submitted in the previous submission periods. So for the last year, this organization did submit. For this year, for this current filing or submission period, the Information Regulator has not submitted it yet. And this just shows the last submission, the numbers that were captured during the last submission. I mentioned PAIA manual. If it's uploaded, anyone will have access to download it here. Automatically available records as well. They can be uploaded on the website, and anyone will be able to download and view those. So I'll then move on to Biz Portal, but I'll just stop sharing quickly so I can log in on the Biz Portal platform and just take you through that part. Just bear with me for a second.
While CIO is uploading the Biz Portal, I just want to apologize to the viewers on YouTube who were not able to see the screen. We are working on the technicality. However, we will share the video on request when you send us an email. We'll share details. Apologies for that minor technical glitch.
All right. So moving on to Biz Portal, we know that businesses already have a long list of compliance requirements from CIPC to SARS and others. So we thought, why not try and make it easier and allow businesses to comply with the Information Regulator while they're already logged in on the CIPC Biz Portal. The commissioner, the CIPC commissioner mentioned earlier that Biz Portal does cater for services from the public sector that are related to businesses. So you'll have your compensation fund, UIF, and others. So we thought, why not bring in regulator services on here as well, since those services do affect businesses. So if you're already on Biz Portal, why then should we expect you to go register another profile, another portal? So we've made it easier for you to just, do your information officer registration. You can do your PAIA annual reporting from this one portal without having to go to our e-services portal. So if you look at the bottom, there's an option there that says Information Regulator Services. To access our services from Biz Portal, you click on that. You will get a set of terms and conditions. Basically, it explains why we partnered with the CIPC, and if you agree to what's written there, then you need to tick on that and continue. It then loads another portal that's still under Biz Portal, and now it's Information Regulator services only. You won't be able to see the other services that BizPortal offers. We've got a countdown timer over there. It shows you how long you've got until the end of the submission period. In this case, we've got only 11 days left. So for those that have not complied, please do it as soon as possible. There are a few things to note though from the BizPortal side. Only directors of companies can submit on behalf of their organization. So you can't, as an intermediary, submit on behalf of a company. So only directors will be able to do that. Public entities will not be able to use BizPortal. They must stick to our e-services portal. BizPortal is only for businesses, so it does not cater for public entities. Yeah, when you log in on BizPortal, you will automatically be shown companies where you are listed as a director, and you'll be able to then proceed with either the registration or the submission of PAIA annual report for those organizations where you are a director. Again, we've brought in some services that I showed you on the e-services side, on our e-services, and they're available here as well. So to start, I'll just show you how the process starts. It's pretty similar, but it's the start of the process that's different. So you can start a new registration. And once you go on there, it will list all the organizations where you are a director. It'll show you whether that organization is registered with the regulator or not, and whether that organization has submitted their PAIA annual report. And in this case, the first one is not registered and it has not submitted the PAIA annual report. It's important to note as well, you cannot submit a PAIA annual report without registering. So it won't allow you to do that. So what you need to do here is to click on registration. Again, it'll preload, because this is on CIPC, it'll preload all of the information about the entity, because CIPC has those details. You'll just fill in what's missing, and the rest of the steps are exactly the same as I showed on the e-services portal. And you just proceed and capture whatever's missing, and at the end you will get a certificate. Similarly with PAIA annual reporting, if you start a new submission, just like e-services, you'll get a list. So none of these entities can submit. I mentioned the first one is not registered, so it won't allow me to submit if it's not registered. So I'll first need to register this first one before I can submit. But these last two have already submitted, so I can't submit duplicates. You will just, for those that are registered and not submitted, there will be an option here where you can select and then proceed with the submission. Let me just see if there are any other services that I've not touched on. I touched on most of these from the e-services side. So the self-assessments for both POPIA and PAIA, as well as the personal privacy score, I touched on from the e-services side. But one other thing that maybe is quite important under personal privacy score, we provide a guide as well. So once you've taken your assessment and you've got your score, we provide a guide as well where you can learn. It's basically a short course. You can learn about the topics that we covered in the assessment. So there's different modules there about personal data handling, online behavior, social media usage, and others. So if you click on any of those, let's click on online behavior. There are different topics that you can learn on. And once you're done, you can just click on complete module, and it'll be marked as you've completed it. Sorry, there's an issue there, but it'll be marked as completed, and you'll be able to move on to the next one. And basically, you can just, at your own pace, just learn about your daily interaction with personal information. I will stop there, but before I stop, Ms. Sondi, let me just try and answer some of the questions. I noted them down. There was a question from Njabulo about people with disabilities. So the regulator had to start somewhere. We've only just started automating. I mentioned we launched this e-services portal sometime last year, and ensuring that our systems do include people with disabilities is something that we have discussed. We are committed, or we have committed to doing some research on it, and we've included it in our annual operation plan. I think the focus for this year is on the blind, but that could cater for people who are not able to read as well. So it's still a research this year, but hopefully we'll be able to start implementing something from the next financial year. So it's something that we have looked into, and we started working on it. Karis, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You mentioned the client previously registered. the registration was done by a service provider and no login credentials were provided by the service provider. Now I need to start here. Login credentials are private. They belong, if you create login credentials on our e-services portal, those belong to you. You do not share them with anyone else. But those login credentials do not mean that someone else cannot access that organization. Now, the person that has been added in that organization as an IO or a deputy information officer or even admin officer will still have access. They may not be registered as a customer, or they may not have a login profile to our e-services, but as soon as they register, they will be automatically linked to the organizations where they are officers. So yeah, that is done automatically. You may have noticed that we do ask for ID numbers when you register an IO, and we do that link using ID numbers. So if your ID number appears as an IO for a particular organization, when you register a login profile, automatically you link to that organization and it'll appear under that My Organizations tab. So you can just advise your clients that the person that is an IO or whoever was added by the third party just needs to create a login profile and register, and then they'll be able to make any amendments they want to make and do submissions as well on their entities. I think that pretty much covers all the questions, Ms. Sondi.
Thank you so much, CIO. We appreciate that demonstration. I think we can safely say, CIO, now that the 40% who responded earlier to say that they have not submitted their PAIA annual reports, that status will change even before the end of this week, so by tomorrow. So that demonstration was very easy to follow, CIO. Thank you so much. And by extension, now that our services are also on the BIS portal, we are expanding accessibility for people to comply with PAIA. I think you did respond to Christian as well, and you did share some of the online self-assessments that they can do as an organization just to test their compliance levels as well. So you did respond to some of those questions. I think what I will do now, CIO, because we have a little under 19 minutes before our session ends, I'm going to open the floor for questions, and we will note the questions as they come through to the panel members. And I had noted earlier Maririmba, Ipileng, and Elia. So I'm going to ask Maririmbi to just take the floor and then introduce yourselves, and you may ask your question. Your mic is muted. Let me give you allowance. Please do come through.
Okay, thank you. My question, I'd already typed it, but let me just repeat. So I'm an admin on more than one entity, and we were more than one admin for that entity. And then when I was added as an admin, the previous admin was removed. But it seems as if me as the new admin, I can't go in. So that those companies are like sitting in the air. No one can go in. You can see them on the portal on e-services, but then I can't report because I cannot go in. So I tried to call yesterday. There was no response. I was just hoping that someone could help me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Maririmba. We will get you a response to that. Let me take Ipileng. Ipileng, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. So my question is more in terms of the procedures for information requests and the forms that are required. I think it's Form 2. Will there be an upgraded digital version or a way in which it will be more accessible so that you do not have to annex attachments explaining further? Because usually on those forms, the space to provide information or request the information is quite limited. And I know right now the procedures to annex any documents that would assist in providing more information for the regulator. So I was just wondering from that standard. And then my second question is, when there's a refusal to grant access to information following the request submitted through that form, if a law firm or not a law firm, a private company were to accidentally just respond in a letter without stating the actual grounds for the refusal, is there a window period for which that can be rectified as opposed to taking the next step, which is then filing a complaint in terms of a deemed refusal?
All right, thank you so much, Ipileng. We've noted those questions. Ms. Sewela will be responding to some. Let's take Elia. You had your hand up, Elia. Are you still on the platform? All right, I think Elia might have dropped off the platform. Let me allow for Desmond. Maybe let's start with Emmanuel, then we'll go to Desmond.
Hi, good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, Emmanuel, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the platform. This is Emmanuel. I'm from the Consumer Ombudsman Office. So I work as the Complaints Resolutions Officer and an appointed Deputy Information Officer by delegation. Now, what I wanted to ask, my question will be a bit long, but I wanted to touch on the type of information requests that we're supposed to account for, right? As you would know that as the consumer ombuds, we deal with complaints, so we receive complaints from the public. So we receive documents that are relating to such complaints, which are relevant to the complaints, right? Now, we find that we've differentiated the type of requests that we receive irrespective of the information. For example, we have a request by the complainants themselves, let's say at a later stage, if maybe the complaint has been resolved, but maybe they lost those documents, which is their documents, right? Maybe they lost them or they want to use them anywhere else. Or we find that there are requests from the suppliers, maybe external requests from the suppliers whereby the complaints were, against those suppliers at the later stage. Maybe they want for record keeping, for everything. We do have such requests, to which obviously we have to provide them with the information request and consent from the complainant, right? And then again, we have these requests whereby external, whereby obviously they would want financial records or audit and risk. Those ones definitely also do. There has to be a process, request form and everything. But my focus is on these information requests by the complainants themselves at a later stage, or the suppliers themselves, because it's information that they would in the life cycle of a complaint, it's an information that already they would have had during the complaints process or the resolution of the complaints. Are those supposed to be also accounted for? Because you find that initially it's what we would have sent to them to say, these are the documents that relating to the complaint, please resolve this complaint, application of the CPA and everything. But you find that they lost them or they need them at the stage, but they do already have them. So are we supposed to, account for them in doing our PAIA annual report? And then my second question is the issue of the tab that Tando mentioned there, by the PAIA complaints portal that will be operational at the later stage. I wanted to understand that, can you log a complaint on behalf of another person, right? Because, for example, as the consumer ombuds, we receive a complaint. It can be a different kind of a complaint, but in the midst of that complaint, you find that there is a PAIA complaint inside the complaint that we're supposed to deal with, to which obviously will be the jurisdiction of the information regulator. In terms of us trying to uphold the law and making it easier for complainants or for the public in general, especially if complainants, it was difficult for them to log complaints with us or with the information regulator in order to assist them. is it possible for people to log those complaints on behalf of the of those complainants, or is it the issue of advising them that no, because this part of the complaint is under the jurisdiction of the information regulator, then you can go to the information. Yeah, maybe a partnership there, can be done, just like the CIPC and the something like that. So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. We even note the proposals already. Thank you so much. Let me take Desmond.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. My apologies because I missed almost an hour of the session. Since I'm a newly registered entity working in the cyberspace and also a business developer incubation with a survey part of our offerings. That means we'll be processing personal information and corporate or even government information. I would like to know, because I just recently registered just a month or two. So now due to the fact that we need to submit the annual reports, I haven't went through the entire website it's like doing a thesis, but I will get there. I just need to know, how do I submit? What do I do first? Because even my PAIA manual, I haven't actually started on it yet. So I would like assistance on how to be compliant, and also if I do need to submit before the end of June. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Desmond. We did cover some of it at the beginning, but we will be resharing the video itself, but we will also respond to you in some of your questions. Let's try the last person one more time, Elia. Elia, are you able to unmute and ask your question?
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm an admin officer in a government sector. So I would want to know as to how do I process this. There is this application for PAIA where the public or the attorneys, they are requesting information on the information that we have, because we are dealing with land claim. On a land claim, sometimes we prepare the verification list where there is a list of all the beneficiaries of the land claim. On that verification list, there is a personal information of the claimant, like their ID number, their full name, their physical address. So I want to know, as a government or a public body, are we allowed to provide such information as per the request of PAIA?
Thank you so much, Elia. We will respond to that question. I have a little about 8 minutes left for the session. I don't have any other hands. I'm just going to assume that Maririmba, it's an old hand that you have raised. I will now just ask the panel members to respond to some of the questions. If we do still have a little bit of time, I will come to you, Candace, as I see you just raised your hand. Maybe let's ask the CIO to start us off with one of the questions that was already raised by Maririmba about being more than one admin, and they can see their profiles, but they're unable to access it, and the other questions that are related to the portal. CIO, can we start with you, and then they will be followed by Mrs. Zanele Mufukeng responding to Ipeleng's question, and then I'll call on other panel members as well.
Thank you, Zamo. So Petisai, you mentioned one admin officer, but there was one admin officer and you were added as another one, and the previous admin officer was removed. And now you mentioned that you can see that the organizations are registered, but they don't appear under your profile while you were added. We've seen such cases, and in all of those, what we've noted is that when you were added, the ID number that was added to your profile is incorrect. And in that case, we cannot automatically link. I mentioned earlier that we use ID numbers to link. If the ID number that you logged in with doesn't match with the ID number that's been submitted as an IO, DIO, or admin officer, then we cannot automatically link you to that organization. So what you can do in this case is log a query. You are able to log in. So log a query on iSupport and provide all relevant details, and we will then amend those details and make sure that we've updated those ID numbers so that entity can appear under your profile. Let me touch, Zamo, on Emmanuel's suggestion. I think we need to meet Emmanuel and work out how we can make it easier for you as a public entity to send those complaints to us. The system is going live next month, and you can log a query on behalf of someone else. We've catered for that. But from a public entity to another, there should be an easier way for you to send those to us. We shouldn't expect you to, go onto the website and type all of those details in. There are ways. I think we can use APIs, and you can easily transfer that information straight to us. And yeah, let's meet. So maybe to touch on Desmond's question as well. You mentioned that your business was recently registered, which means it was not registered in the previous financial year. I think in that case, your business does not need to submit because it did not exist for the period that we're submitting for, which is 2024-25, from April 2024 to March 2025. But I think the PAIA colleagues will answer to that. Thank you, Hamza.
Thank you so much, CIO. I think before you come in, Ms. Mufokeng, I just want to ask Ms. Tilly if she wants to just weigh in on Emmanuel's inquiry about partnerships and so forth. Ms. Tilly?
Thank you, Ms. Sandy. I think that that's certainly something that we are interested in and trying to take forward. And I think it's not only in this context, but other regulators as well. Certainly when we do our Dikopana outreach program, we often encourage other regulators to take part in those so that people can, raise their concerns, not just with us, but also with the right people so that they can do it quickly and efficiently. So yes, I think that's something that we're definitely taking on board and taking forward.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tilly. Zanele, please can we assist Ipileng on the issue of refusal to grant access or accidental response in terms of deemed refusals and so forth. Can I hand over to you, Ms. Mufokeng?
Thank you, Nomzamo. In relation to the question that was raised by Ipileng, to ask whether when they've responded but they did not indicate the grounds, can the complainant then lodge the complaint with the regulator? So in terms of PAIA, remember, in terms of depending on your institution, whether it's a private or public body, but in terms of the provisions of PAIA, your refusal must be based on the provisions of PAIA. So, and remember, and in terms of the time frame, you've got 30 days to respond to the complaint, to the request. And then obviously when the complainant comes to the regulator, will be aggrieved by your decision. So your refusal must be based on in the provisions of PAIA, nothing else. You can't use your own provision, but it must be aligned to PAIA. Thank you. And I think there was another question that was raised also by Ipileng regarding the issue of Form 2, whether one has to attach an annexure to the Form 2. Unfortunately, the current state of the Form 2 is that if you want to expand further, you will then have to attach an addendum to the Form 2 for you to explain further in terms of either the rights or the information that you want to insert. But it's something which we can look into the future in terms of expanding those lines, whether that one will be possible. But for now, you just have to amend or do an addendum to the Form 2. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mufokeng. All right. I'm glad you assisted Ipileng. Can we also check if Ms. Advocate Lamula, do you want to weigh in on the questions that was asked in terms of IO registration and IOs, and any other question?
Thank you, Samo. I think all have been responded to adequately. I do not have anything to add. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Elia also asked about the issue in connection with PAJA. Any of the panel members want to respond to Elia? Yes, please, Ms. Mofokeng.
Thank you, Nomzamo. I think there was a question about the personal information of other parties. I think maybe perhaps what the department can look into the issue of redacting the ID number of the persons or on the list. Just consider the issue of redacting the ID numbers when you're making that list, or when you're submitting or giving the list to the other parties. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Mofokeng. I think what I will do at this point, because we only have 1 minute left, but because Candace, you have been patiently waiting, we will give you an allowance to ask your question. But I still would like to advise those that we don't get to please type in your questions in our chat box, and we will make an attempt to actually publish some of the questions and answers to your questions that you may have posed on the chat group. The floor is yours, Candace.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. It's been a very informative session. So we created a profile in 2024, it was January, using the information officer's ID. When we went in now, and then we also received the certifications of who's the information officer for the 3 companies. It's 3 companies and the deputy officer, which is myself. When we wanted to log in this time around to do the reporting, the same ID that we used to register, it told us now that we're not, that it's not recognized, and I've been removed as the deputy officer. Therefore, I'm having a problem submitting the reports, because you can't submit a report if you're not registered as such. And then the other problem is when I've done the ticket, I've not really been able to get very far, because it's seeing me as sort of a floating person, not a person assigned with a role. So I'm just wondering if we should delete the profiles and redo the profiles, or how do we overcome this?
All right, thank you so much, Candace. Can I also just request Sipho Guhle and Daisy to please share our iSupport link and also email address where inquiries can be sent in terms of technical challenges, and also if we could share our toll-free number so that we can be contacted as a regulator to assist. CIO, are we able to assist Candace?
We would need further details, but Candace mentioned that the profile was created in 2024 January. This new portal did not exist then. We introduced it, I think, around May last year, and everyone had to re-register at that point. And we offered an opportunity for migration as well for those registrations that were done on the previous registration portal. So we need further details, and emails will be shared. Candace, please provide details on that and maybe just your ticket number. And the team will get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, CIO. Karus, let's take you as the very last person. I'll feel very bad if I close the session and you had your hand up so long. Please do ask your question before I conclude the session.
Nomzamo, thank you so very much. It was a fantastic session. Thank you to everybody that contributed. I was just wondering, in terms of the iSupport tickets, what is the turnaround time there? How long after we've logged the ticket can we expect an answer? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karus. And CIO, I think I will bring it back to you if you could assist us with in regards to turnaround in terms of iSupport tickets that may have been lodged.
Okay, so we try and answer all queries within 10 days, but unfortunately for some of our divisions, there's only 1 person attending to queries, so it may take a bit longer. So for technical queries, we've got 1 person responding to everything. And for those queries, it may take a bit longer, but we try and fast track it. So it's standard 10 days, but it may take a bit longer. And if you see that we are not responding, you can send an update on the query and it brings it up to the top so we can look into it. So do use that section at the bottom on your iSupport ticket where it says provide an update. Use that and provide further updates, and we will get back to you.
All right, thank you so much, CIO, and thank you so much to our partners from CIPC. for being on the platform today with us and collaborating and coordinating the session with us. We do apologize if we do not respond to all your questions as yet, but like I indicated, we will try a mechanism to actually respond to those by formulating a Q&A and share it on our digital platforms as well. I'd like to appreciate all the panel members who have been here today, and I would like to urge you again as public and private bodies to adhere to the deadline of the 30th of June. We have shared various ways of how you can contact us so that we are able to assist you if there are any technical glitches or if you have any inquiries on just the general compliance with PAIA or POPIA for that matter. So we really appreciate your participation today. Thank you, Ms. Alison Tilly, for gracing us with your presence, as well as Advocate Rory Vola, although he has already left the platform. We will be continuing to have these engagements. One of the reasons why we had this platform today is because you also did reach out to us as the regulator through our stakeholder engagement office that you'd like us to give more insight and information with regards to PAIA annual reporting, PAIA compliance, POPIA compliance. So we will have more sessions as similar to this, so we give you an opportunity to engage with us as the information regulator. Thank you so much for joining the session today and Ask the Regulator. I hope it was fruitful for everyone. Do have a good afternoon. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peleng.